everyone is mingling and enjoying the exhibitors, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Myers. I'm a physical therapist by trade at Avera, but I've been a volunteer with the South Dakota Parkinson's Foundation for many years, and I serve as the vice president. So thank you for all joining us today. It's a privilege for me to introduce our next speaker. Lisi E. Brown serves as gerontology field specialist with South Dakota State University Extension, bringing a wealth of knowledge and problem-solving expertise to her role. Her experience in the U.S. Air Force honed her ability to deconstruct complex aging-related challenges into manageable components, fostering deeper understanding and practical solutions. Passionate about enhancing quality of life as we age, Lisi believes that thoughtful innovations in home design, technology, and community infrastructure can address many of the difficulties associated with aging. Her professional interests span aging well, aging in place, family caregiving, ageism, and end-of-life planning. Please welcome Lisi Brown as she presents How to Stay in Your Home Longer.
Okay, I think I got, yes, success, I have it. Yes, my name is Lisi Brown. Oh, hopefully I did it right. I did do it right. Yes. Okay, so you have slides. Oops, let me go back one. Today, we're going to talk about how your home can limit your independence. We're going to describe the growing need for home modification. We're going to discuss practical, low-cost options, and then we're going to discuss your strategies for funding and hiring professionals. On your slides, you have these questions. I'd like you to take a minute on page 2 to answer the questions. There's 6 of them. They're just yes or no questions. So read those questions right there at the top of page 2. It says, can you answer yes to all 6 questions? So, if you can answer yes to all 6 questions, I want you to raise your hand. We got 1, 2, 3. Okay, now, leave your hand up. Did you build your home or did you buy your home? If you built it, raise your hand. And you built it with these features. Because what I found in my work is that people who build their own homes, they include 36-inch doors. They include wide halls. They think about the bathroom and wheelchair access. The rest of us are stuck buying what the builders put on the market, which are often split foyers, narrow halls, narrow doors. I mean, I've asked these questions to over 1,000 people. And what I have found is that most people, around 80%, if somebody in their home develops a disability, 80% either must renovate their home or relocate. That is the reality that every single one of us is facing in our home. We must relocate or renovate. And the reason this is true is because accessibility in the home is not prioritized. Many don't have the no-step entrance. Many don't have a bedroom or a bathroom on the entry level. Only a very few have a ramp. And yeah, this diagram here on the screen, it says 79% of units have a full bathroom on the entry level. But I doubt those bathrooms are big enough for someone who uses a wheelchair. Everyone got a tape measure when you came in? Did everyone get a tape measure? That tape measure is 5 foot long. Do you remember what it corresponds to? Did they tell you? That 5 foot tape measure corresponds to the minimum space that a wheelchair user needs to turn around. So what I want you to do with that tape measure when you get home is I want you to start looking around your house. Go in your kitchen, go in your bathroom, go in your laundry room, and stretch out that 5-foot tape measure, and see if you could turn around if you were using a wheelchair or some other assistive technology. Disabilities in South Dakota. This diagram on the screen basically shows that 1 in 4 adults, and I'm not saying older adults, 1 in 4 adults has a disability. The types of disability are on the screen. I'm going to go fast because I want to get to the meat and potatoes because I don't have as much time. These are facts of life. Every single one of us will encounter these events at some point. Maybe it's us, maybe it's someone we love. But all of us will have to face chronic disease in our family. Accidents happen to people, especially people working on farms and ranches. Accidents happen to people. There's just simply death and dying. We do not live forever. And even if we do everything right in our health, everything, there's still going to be a period of decline when we need help and we're going to need accessibility. That is just the fact that we are mortal beings who die. There's illness and recovery. People often think of having a disability, it's something you get, and once you have it, it's forever. That's not always how it is. Sometimes it's temporary. Sometimes you're getting a knee replaced. Sometimes you're getting a hip replaced. Would you rather do rehab at home or in a facility? Your bathroom, your house design really determines what type of care. And then there's just aging and frailty. Our body declines over time. Granted, there's a lot we can do to keep it stronger. We heard about exercise earlier. But our body ultimately does decline over time, and we need to be cognizant of this. We have to accept that this is reality. We've been ignoring it for decades. We've been building Peter Pan housing for decades. And Peter Pan housing is housing for people who will never grow old. It's split foyers. Why are we still building split foyers? So what might prevent someone from aging in the home? There is access to services. I say this because I don't want you to walk away thinking I'm telling you modify your home, everything will be perfect. Because there's other factors that are involved. All of us will need services and supports. If you're living in a community that doesn't have them, no matter how well you renovate your home, aging in place is going to be difficult. There's access to transportation. All of us are going to need help getting around eventually. Having a family caregiver. If you don't have somebody who's able to help you, it's hard to stay at home. People are not planning ahead. Most of the time, people who are contacting me about home modifications, they're looking for loans and grants and nonprofits who can help them put them in their home. That's what's happening a lot of time. People often don't think about this until there is an emergent crisis happening. The design of the community, they're not walkable. They force you to have a car to get everywhere. This affects our ability to age in place. And then the design of the home, which is what I'm going to spend the bulk of my time talking about. So what are home modifications? They are either renovations or changes that you make in your home to make it work better for someone who has a disability. Ramp, that's probably one that jumps to everyone's mind. But there's also bathroom and grab bars are common examples. But home mods can also include reorganization. So if you have certain items, maybe your coffee, you need to get to your coffee every day. You put your coffee down somewhere where you can access it and maybe not on the top shelf. So you may choose to reorganize a room to make it work better for somebody with disabilities. I have some home modification planning guides that you have web addresses to get to. My contact information, they're in there. They're in your book. There are some home modification planning guides. One of the big things about the resources that I have created to help people understand home modifications really focus on measurements. Because when you boil it all down, it really is space. People who have disabilities need more space. So a lot of those resources that I have will help you think about the space that you need. So these are resources for you. A really important thing to understand is the businesses, the nonprofits in this state who work on home modification are few and far between. When you need help to renovate your house, I hate to be morbid, I hate to be sad, but finding help is going to be hard. I renovated my house in 25. And as I was talking to contractors about the changes that I wanted to make, because I wanted to improve the wheelchair access in it, I had to look at these contractors and tell them, I plan to die here for them to get on the same page with me about the changes that I wanted, because I wanted wider doors. I wanted to improve the access in my bathroom, because I could literally touch both walls before. But they were just trying to poo-poo me and tell me I'm too young to worry about that. The truth of the matter is, I'm trying to reach 40 and 50 years old, because the choices we make when we're 40 and 50 determine the options that are available to us when we're older. And renovating a home can take decades. You know, waiting till something happens, it can be very difficult to make the renovations that you need. So those guides that I have in there are to help you become educated about home modifications, to help you look at your home and take that tape measure I gave you, measure the doors, measure the halls, look for the 5-foot turnaround circle in the bathroom. Maybe you have to think, could I get this 5-foot circle if I took out the vanity and put in a pedestal sink? And I think maybe you don't like a pedestal sink, but I think if you're choosing between a nursing home and a pedestal sink, I think most people are going to choose the bathroom with a pedestal sink. So that may be what you have to do to renovate your home, is maybe you have to take out the vanity and put in a different sink solution so you can get in there. But these guides are meant to help you. But I want to give you some low-cost ideas. Some of these were covered in the previous session. Improve lighting. Color contrast is your friend. Our vision, you know, as we get older, it can be harder to distinguish color contrast. So if you have a table that is the same color as the carpet, you need to change something up, because somebody with low vision may not be able to see the edge of the table because it blends into the carpet. Remove throw rugs, or make sure you're using anti-skid throw rugs. One important one is downsize, declutter, and rearrange furniture. As I stated, when it comes to having disabilities, space is one of the key things you need. You need someone who can get in there, help you in the bathroom, turn around your wheelchair. Space is the key. If your house is cluttered, that's an easy, low-hanging fruit. Maybe not easy. Getting rid of stuff is hard. But it's a tangible thing, a change that you could make. Reorganize your storage. You know, put things that you need to access more regularly, lower down, whatever it works for you. I don't know your house. I don't know what your cabinetry looks like. But move stuff around. Use non-skid mats and adhesive strips to prevent slips and trips. Lever-style door handles on your faucets help if you have trouble with your fingers. And then installing the grab bars. These are some of the more low-cost options of what you can do. Okay. I'm going to talk about the barriers now. The barriers are real. The first thing I want to point out are those key terms on the left. Those are all different terms that professionals use to describe creating a space that works for somebody who has disabilities. What sets my work apart, I focus on measurements. Instead of trying to tell you universal design is a type of design that tries to make a home work for everybody who lives there, I tell you measure the door. It needs 36 minimum. If I was building a house, I would have one door with one exterior door that's extra wide. You can move a hospital bed, you can move furniture, you can move appliances. So I'd have one door that's extra wide. So again, I try to help you understand what you need to measure so you can advocate for yourself, because that's the truth. You must advocate for anyone you hire, because most of these builders that you're going to encounter, they have no clue about what a person with a disability needs to live in the home. And it feels like they don't care sometimes, honestly. I mean, I've had builders tell me, well, these houses are being built for workers. I thought workers got hurt. I don't know. Police, ambulance, fire, I don't know. I think those people get hurt sometimes. So the barriers, let's talk about the barriers real quick. Cost. Cost is a major concern when it comes to building your home. You know, for my house in particular, I had to redo all the plumbing in my house. My sewer stack coming up from the basement was literally right up against the wall. There's no making that wheelchair accessible. So I had to redo all the plumbing in my house. That's expensive. That's costly. That's why it's so important for 40 and 50-year-olds to start thinking about this now. Remember, I said 80% of the people that I have encountered have to relocate or renovate. That's almost everybody in this room. That's 8 out of 10 people. That's a lot of us. Time. It really takes a lot of time to renovate. And if you're sitting in the hospital because you had a fall, you don't have time to renovate. So time can be a barrier. Deferred maintenance. A sad reality is there are people who are living in single-family housing and they haven't fixed the roof. They haven't fixed other damage to the property. And reality, like one contractor told me, somebody had a hole in their bathroom floor. You need to fix the hole in the bathroom floor before you can even consider making it wheelchair accessible. So people often are not maintaining their homes, and those deferred maintenance things need to be done. Availability of providers. I'm going to harp on this over and over again. There are not a lot of providers in this state who are qualified to do these renovations. They haven't, I mean, some are. There's some. You're in Sioux Falls here. There might be more options here than, say, a Watertown, some other smaller town. But there just really aren't a lot of contractors that are available. There's not a lot of nonprofits that are available who are going to do it at no cost. There are some programs, and I'll talk about those later, but there's not a lot of organizations out there to do this for you. Economic status. Those of you who have more income, it's going to be easier for you to make renovations. It's going to be easier for you to build your home so that it works for you across your whole lifespan. But those who have a more limited income, it's going to be difficult. Being rural, I mean, we live in a rural state. We do not have as many services and supports available, particularly around home modification. Consumer knowledge and perceptions. People often think accessible homes are ugly. They think they look like hospitals. They think they cannot be a place that is stylish and fashionable. That is simply not the case. Really, it's about space. Having your 36-inch door, having that 5-foot turnaround circle in the bathroom, laundry room, kitchen. Anywhere you got to do activities, you need that 5-foot circle. I mean, have you seen those islands where they're really close to the kitchen? And basically, anybody using a wheelchair has to do laps. As they go from kitchen to sink or stove to sink, fridge to sink, they have to do laps around this island. So you really want that 5-foot circle. So that's a hard thing to overcome, is getting people to say, I don't need this, this isn't applicable to me. This is applicable to all of us. We are fragile beings. We can be injured at any time. And then there's architectural barriers. Some homes simply are not feasible to renovate. Split foyers. They are the bane of my existence. They are, if they would give me a foyer where I can park a wheelchair, install a stair glider, that split foyer would be workable. But that's not how they're building split foyers. They typically make them as small as possible, so there's no room for assistive technology. There's no room for wheelchairs or walkers. So there's some units that simply do not work to renovate. That is just a simple fact. So I do have some guidance to help you. The key terms that I mentioned that's in that yellow box, those are some of the words you could use, like if you like using the internet, those are some of the words that you could use to try to search for people who might know. The certifications and trainings are listed there. Those are people you could try to look up to see, is there CAP? So Certified Aging in Place Specialist, and that's on that list on slide 12. That's a person who is trained to come in and do assessments on the home. So you can use those key words to try to search for people. I know it's not very enlightening or helpful, or doesn't make you feel good to know that it's going to be hard, but I'm trying to help you know what to look for. If you're trying to figure out how you can renovate your home, this slide right here on the screen gives you those key words to help you research. Because it's not going to be easily defined in the phone book. We don't know people call this stuff all kinds of different stuff. So those are the key words that you get to use as you're trying to find providers who can help you. Now, the number one question that people come to me with is, how do I pay for it? That's the number one question, is how do I pay for it? Primarily, it's going to be your own funds. There are some grant programs that are available. There's some loan programs available, and I have some examples listed on the screen. They vary, so for example, community development block grants. Not every community has tapped into that option to do home modifications. Some cities do. They'll get a block grant and they'll fund home modifications. It's going to be a lot of work for you to do the research to figure out what loans are available, what grants are available, or if it's private pay. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to find those programs. If you're a veteran, there's some VA programs that are pretty easy to access. You see Dakota at Home and the Helpline Center. I would put stars by those two. Those are places that are databases. So Dakota at Home is run by the state of South Dakota, and that's where different service providers are. You may find home modification providers in there. The Helpline Center does have like a home modification tab. It's kind of, I'm not good at explaining people how to get to it, but the Helpline Center, there is a website page in this package you have. That Helpline Center can be a place where you can look for different nonprofits who might be able to help you with the renovations. I wish I had better news. It hurts my heart. I can't tell you how much it hurts my heart how bad the housing is. Because I know that we could have a better quality of life if we started ensuring every interior door is 36 inches. If a piece of furniture or a human being needs to go through it, it needs to be 36 inches. That's just how it should be. So it's hard for me because it feels hopeless sometimes. How do we get the builders? And that's what people, Lisa, you need to go talk to the builders. You need to go tell it to the builders. I do. They tell me it costs too much. That's what they tell me. It costs too much. But they're not facing $10,000 to $12,000 in a nursing home every month. I think if they really understood how long-term care worked and that Medicare doesn't pay for it, maybe they would have a better sense of why they should start prioritizing wide halls, wide doors, bedroom on the entry level, bathroom on the entry level. I'm not saying, that's another point I want to point out to you. I am not saying that every house needs to be a ranch. That's just a misconception that many people have about what works for us in the home after we develop disabilities. The key thing, bathroom, bedroom on the entry level, wide halls, wide doors. You could still have a second. You could even have a third floor if you felt spicy. But the key is having those essential features. The essential features on the entry level. And we want to know what's not essential? The laundry room. I know someone's going to argue with me. I know somebody will. But let me tell you, when's the last time you heard somebody went to the nursing home because they couldn't do laundry? That's not why people go to the nursing home. We can get somebody else to do laundry, but we cannot get another person to use the commode for you. The bathroom is mission critical. If you can only change one room, that bathroom is the one that matters most. It really does. Somebody has to help you bathe. All of us, not just you. All of us are going to need help bathing eventually. By ensuring that your bathroom has that 5-foot circle, that means somebody can get in there. A caregiver can get in there and help you. This is an important cost to consider when it comes to aging in place. Every one of us will need help with general household cleaning, cleaning gutters, cleaning downspouts, clearing ice and snow, flushing the water heater, fixing wobbly steps, and more. Somebody else has to be available to maintain the house. If you're not able to pay for those expenses, you might have to consider other options. You might need more supportive housing where those tasks, because this has cost. If you lose your ability to do these general tasks that every person who lives in a home has to do, can you pay someone else to do it? Do you have a relative or a friend who's going to come clean your gutters, come flush your water heater? That's the one thing. I don't want to, home modifications are important. Home modifications can really keep us in our home longer, but we have to be willing to get help. Whether we pay for it, or it's a volunteer, or it's a family member, we have to have help. And I think it's important. That is something that I feel like gets neglected when people are thinking about aging in place. Is, yeah, sure, I want you to stay in your home as well. I know people are happy in their home, but if you're not willing to hire help, you have some thinking to do. That's the short answer. You have some thinking to do. Okay. What about renters? That's a question, because I am talking a lot about people who own homes, but people who rent are allowed to request reasonable accommodations for their home. You can ask that. I will tell you, you can be asked to pay for it. You can be asked to pay for renovations and the cost to return the unit to normal. So if you're renting a house, you can ask to renovate. You may be asked to pay for the cost of those renovations, and then they may ask you to put it back to normal, back to the way it was. So renters, they're protected by the stuff that's on this slide. All right, things to remember about home modifications. They can help address safety concerns, improve our functional performance, and reduce the risk of falls and the demand on the caregiver. I mean, think about it. Whenever I was in graduate school, I worked at a group home for people with developmental disabilities. One of our residents was 80. And the bathroom in this house, when you sat on the commode, your knees were up against the vanity. And he was septic one day. And I'm in there trying to help him in the bathroom, and he can barely move himself. I mean, the risk of me being injured trying to help him in a bathroom that is too small is large. So that they do help your caregiver. I want to show you on that bottom of page 8, slide 16, there's an expandable offset door hinge. I know sometimes you can't change a door frame. Sometimes you just can't. That door hinge there, that picture, that is something you can install to give you about like another 1.5 inches in the width of the door. So that can be a solution for you if you can't change the doors, because sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's reasons why you can't. All home modifications need to be customized to the individual. Somebody who is 6'5", they are going to need something different grab bars than someone who's 5'3". They're not going to need the same. So every home modification really does need to be customized to the person. And remember, home modifications include a whole wide range of things. The assessments that were talked about earlier, I highly recommend those assessments. Those assessments, they're really going to help you look at your home and figure out where could you do things, how could you reorganize things, what assistive technology. So it really has to be customized. There is no one size fits all. That's why I don't advocate for making every house ADA compliant. I don't advocate for that. I'm sorry, but a lower sink is going to hurt my back over time. That's not the solution to make everything ADA compliant. The solution is to address the space issues. Those can be found in the doorways, the halls, your bathroom, your entryway. Your entryway is huge. In my house, when you walk into my front door, you're greeted by steps that take you up to the second level, and it's only, maybe 3 feet, something like that. So my plan for my house is to put the entrance on the back door where it can be wider and a wheelchair could actually get in there. So that's a thing to think about. Professionals can help you find the right home modifications. Like I said, building professionals are hard. If you find one in Sioux Falls or your community, great, that understands accessibility in the home and understands and is willing to work with you and not, it's not worth it. Because you want somebody who's going to embrace what you want and do what you want. Healthcare professionals, these guys, OTs, I know there's some OTs in the room. OTs are amazing. They have the ability to come into your home. They can figure out, where pinch points are on activities you're trying to do. They can figure out, what AT would help you, what modifications might help you. So I really encourage that healthcare professional can help you. And I think we had a testimony about that earlier, about the value. I want to emphasize they're not always structural. Maybe you get this offset hinge and you put that on one of your doors. I talked about reorganization. Adaptive equipment and technology are part of home modifications. Adaptive equipment is a very powerful tool for us. I mean, honestly, it is amazing that we have the technology that we have today to make those tasks easier. So, some other options are wireless switches. So if somebody having trouble getting to a light, you could try some wireless switches. So really, I am trying to promote upstream prevention. A lot of the disabilities we face as we get older are the result of bad design in the environment. The environment exacerbates disabilities. It makes it worse for us. And if we would design better, we could live better. So I'm really about upstream prevention. That's why I said if I ruled the world, every new home would be adaptable, every single one of them. You live in a one-bedroom apartment, you get an accessible shower. The thing is, housing costs are rising. Childcare costs are rising. Long-term care costs are rising. All of these costs are going up. Families need another option. They really, truly do. This nuclear family living that we've done in the 20th century, I don't know how it's conducive to our whole lifespan and dealing with elder care and dealing with child care. It doesn't make sense to me. That's not how we lived. If you look before, the baby boom generation, before suburbanization, before nuclear families, we lived more multi-generationally. And I really feel that we need to start moving towards co-housing. Maybe you don't want to live with your kids, but can you co-house with somebody else? Because at the end of the day, we're all going to need help. And if you're co-housing, there's more people available to help. And this can help with cost. I mean, somebody who may have trouble, getting upstairs doesn't necessarily have trouble watching kids. So it's like if families would start being a little bit more innovative in how they approach housing, that might mitigate the cost of long-term care. That might mitigate the cost of child care. So families need other options. And what I'm telling you is families don't have the option right now. Basically, we're told single family living is how it works and how we should live, and that doesn't work for caregiving and child rearing. It doesn't. I mean, families are struggling. Families are struggling right now. And if we were sharing housing more, if we were living intergenerationally, we would be able to use our resources better. Okay. All right. I have said these things a lot, and I'll have it on the screen. This is talking about what an adaptable home is. An adaptable home is a concept that I really promote. And really, an adaptable home is built in a way that when you need to renovate it for wheelchair access, it costs you less. You're not moving doors or walls. You're not widening doors. You're changing fixtures. You're putting in a comfort height commode. Maybe you're switching the vanity to a pedestal. You're not having to make major structural changes if we can build adaptable homes. And adaptable homes really focus on the bones of a house. You put whatever skin you want on it. You want contemporary design, you can put contemporary design. If you want more classical, whatever, you can design it anything you want, any way you want. But the key is doors. How wide? 36. Halls are minimum 42. I would prefer 4 foot. I would. That allows you to be beside somebody and help them down the hall. So I really would prefer 4 foot, but 42 inches minimum. Give me 42 inches. That's a lot better than the standard 3-foot halls that we do right now, because 3 foot is the standard. And I dare you to go try to turn a wheelchair around in a 3-foot hall. I dare you. We want a bedroom on the entry level. Remember, you can have a multi-story home. It doesn't make sense to make everything a ranch. That takes up too much room. That costs a lot for utilities. It just doesn't make sense. You can have a multi-level. The key is essential features on the entry level, which are the bedroom and the bathroom. And it doesn't have to all be on grade. Just have one entrance that's easier to ramp. And what that means is you minimize that rise above grade. Because for every inch your threshold is above the ground, that's a foot of ramp. And if your threshold is 40 inches above ground, you can't have a 40-foot long ramp. Grandma's going to be in the next county. You have to have switchbacks. So if we minimize that rise above grade to say, 10 inches, that's a 10-foot ramp plus a landing. That's a lot cheaper. So adaptable home is really about reducing the cost it takes you to renovate a home to make it wheelchair accessible, disability friendly. That's really what an adaptable home is. I am pushing these as hard as I can. I really try to target 40-year-olds. I really feel that waiting until we're 60 and 70 is not a good plan, because when you're really going to know that you need it is after something has happened. And then you're going to realize how hard it is to lift your leg over that tub. That's when people realize. So if I could get people in their 40s and 50s, and I'm trying, and I know I've inspired people. I mean, I've got friends my age that told me, we built our house with wide doors and we did all this thing, and they were younger than me. And the beautiful thing about it is the husband fell off the ladder and he was injured, and he was having to use one of the little scooters, and he raved to me about how much better that experience was because they built their home thinking about this stuff from the get-go. You know, so for the rest of their lives, they're going to have me to thank. So I am trying to get to younger people to get them to understand you can't wait. This is something that has to be prioritized sooner. I can't say it enough. It has to be prioritized sooner. The summary is that the majority of houses in this state are missing 36-inch doors. They are missing the wide halls. They may not have a bedroom on the entry level. They might have a bathroom on the entry level, but I bet you they can touch both walls. It doesn't work. I don't know what the bathrooms look like, but it doesn't work. Most of us are living in houses that we cannot reasonably stay in until end of life. That is just the reality that we are living in. It can be different. I'm telling you it can. What I'm telling you, the features I'm describing to you don't make a house look like a hospital. They don't. They just make it feel bigger. I mean, my house feels huge. My house is a little tiny house. The original building was 20 by 24 foot. It is teeny. But I did things to really open it up so it feels bigger. I've got a 36-inch door going into my bathroom. I think it's 42, 45. I've got a wider door going into my kitchen. It's amazing like how open a home can feel just by making these changes. Home modifications aren't always big major renovations. They can be just changing. And for some people, doing your renovation is not possible. You're going to have to use AT, you're going to have to use shower chairs, you're going to have to do it. And then families are really well served to start thinking about this sooner. I urge you not to wait till things get worse for you, to start thinking now. Go home, take that tape measure, spread it out. Look at that 5 foot, and start thinking about, hey, maybe it's time to start renovating. One person who participated in my webinar, he wrote on the feedback form, she made me realize I have to move. And I'm sorry if that's what I'm making you realize. But that's just the reality that we're facing. You have these resources available to you on the last page. I have web resources. You can go check them out. You can read about it. If you are looking for help, I've got Dakota at Home and the Helpline Center web addresses on there. I definitely encourage looking for help and trying to figure out what works for you. And ultimately, I did a lot of the renovations myself because cost. I did a lot of work. Plumbing is huge. Doing plumbing is huge. I did a lot of work. I love my house. I love the changes, but it was a lot of work. And I have to acknowledge Dr. Jane Strumman and Dr. Susan Ray Deggs. They are from North Dakota State University, and I worked with them extensively on my home modification work, and their expertise and mentorship really kind of got me to where I am with my knowledge about home modifications. So now we can answer questions. We got like 10 minutes, so we can answer questions. Comments? We got one right there.
Thank you, Lisi. How can we best educate the contractors so they look ahead to our end-of-life issues?
I think it's one contractor at a time. I think if you're working with somebody, I think you could say, hey, I've got an adaptable rack cards that I'll put on the table back there. You could take that adaptable rack card and say, hey, these are the things that I really want to make sure get included in my home. And you have to stay on top of them. I have heard stories where a woman, she wanted to have a door from the garage to, I believe, her bedroom. I believe it was to her bedroom for her husband who has disabilities. And she wanted a 36-inch door. The contractor put in a 32 completely defeated the purpose of the whole renovation. So you have to stay on top of these contractors because they're just going to go do it the way they do it, and the way they do it is 32-inch doors. Unless they got some sense. I met some guy in Rapid City, and he told me he's starting to put 32-inch or 36-inch doors in everything in all his rentals because the renters do less damage to the doors when the doors are wider. Like I said, if a piece of furniture or a human being needs to go through that door, 36 inches. And if they tell you, oh, those doors cost too much, you need one less 2x4 when you do a 36-inch door. It doesn't cost that much more. And if you're facing $10,000 to $12,000 in a nursing home or $6,000 to $8,000 for assisted living, I don't think a little bit extra dollars on a door is that big of a deal. We got one up here. Hang on, let her get to you.
I'm coming.
Run faster.
For learning, you could talk to the AGC, the Association of General Contractors.
That could be a good, it'd be worth talking to them. I mean, I need to write that down.
They deal more with the the commercial contractors, but
if we could start getting the ideas.
you need to get to the residential guys.
The challenge I face is, like, I've sat on panels talking about this, and people who build, they just start ticking off how much everything costs, and that's what they're doing, and that's why they're squeezing as many bedrooms and bathrooms they can as in a little space because they get more money. So those dollars, they really, the entrance. By and large, I don't think the cost between an adaptable home and a regular home is that great, but where it does come in is the entrance. Because depending on where you are, I live in Rapid City, we have very rocky, rugged soil out there. That's a lot of dirt work that has to be done to achieve that no-step entrance, as well as the grading to make sure the water flows away, because it does take extra work. You've got to make sure that grading is going to allow the water to flow away from the house. Oh, right there.
Test, there we go.
In the past, I've designed bathrooms for ADA, and we always left 18 inches on the side of the doorknob side of the, is that mandatory, not mandatory?
I don't know if that's mandatory, but 18 inches on the door?
No, beside the door so that you can wheel up easier and open up the door when it swings.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes, from just a logical perspective on how the door is going to open and get out of the way. Because the door, I mean, I thought about it at the hotel that I was in the Sheraton here. The door really got in the way of this bathroom and making it more accessible, plus it's kooky. So I assume, yeah, that's probably good practice because it allows the door to be more out of the way. And doors get in the way.
Thank you.
Yep. Got some up here.
Anywhere, or do you know where those could be found?
Those are largely unavailable. They're largely unavailable. I don't think that you need a design. I've got some stamps out there. I think you have to look for that 5-foot circle. Like when you look at a plan, I've got some stamps. I didn't bring very many, but I've got some stamps. I'll put them on the table. And I think they're 1/4-inch scaled, maybe, I don't know. But the point is, you almost have to sit there and look for that 5-foot circle when you're looking at a plan. Look where the island is in the kitchen. Look for the amount of space between the island. But I think that 5-foot circle, I mean, you can do that with any plan. Any architect you're working with, any designer, start asking them questions. Like I said, that's why I gave out those tape measures, to really help you have a visual of what you need to look for when you're trying to make sure there's enough space for you and your loved one in the home. I didn't hear him.
National Kitchen or Bath Association has a lot of resources on that.
Okay.
Did I get that right? Okay.
All right, so check that. But yeah, free. Are they free or do they have to pay for them? Free? Okay, check that website. But like most plans you look at, you're going to have to work with people locally, like a builder or whatever. So they're right there behind you.
I live in an apartment complex that claims they have handicapped accessible apartments. And of course, I don't live in the handicapped accessible one, but there's no way that they can get a wheelchair in there. No. Because they have a locked door and there's no button to open the door, like for a wheelchair person, and they would have to use a key and try to pull that door open, and there's no room.
So the challenge with apartments is because of the way laws work and funding works and all the things work, apartments are only legally required to have a certain percentage of their units be wheelchair accessible. They're not required to make all of them, you know. So
Well,
is this a senior community, or is it just
No. The door to get into the complex is not handicapped accessible.
But they're claiming they claim the whole building is handicapped
Well, they
accessible.
claim the one apartment is, but to get in there, you got to go through the
That door,
front entry
yeah.
door. Yeah.
And that's just poor design on whoever built that. That's just poor design. But the problem is they do bare minimum. When it comes to these multifamily units, they typically do the very bare minimum on accessibility. And it drives me nuts because if they would build them the way that I say, it would save them so much money down the road, except for that door. That door is a problem.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for why they did that. They're ignorant.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are so ignorant. I think we have got it in our head in this society that old people go to the nursing home, old people go to assisted living. So because that's how we think it works, that's the normal trajectory of housing that we people think about it, why should we make regular single family housing work for people with disabilities if they're just going to go live in these special homes anyways? I think that's part of the problem is we just have a mindset about where people go that doesn't reflect what we want. And it just doesn't reflect the reality of like our experiences getting older. I mean, most of us as we get older, we're not going to need, 24-hour medical care. We need help with laundry. We need help doing dishes, cleaning the water heater. We need help with those kind of things.
All right, we're going to do one more question, and then we're going to go on to our next speaker.
Go back there.
So I have a son who's going to be attending STSU for the architecture program. And as we're talking about this, it's making me realize how important this is as part of the educational system and what these people are learning while they're in school. Is this part of their curriculum, or is there something I can recommend?
Yeah, see, here's the thing to understand about single-family housing. Architects are largely uninvolved. They do not typically build single-family housing. There's no money for them in it. It's typically drafters that are putting together the house plans. So architects know what he's going to learn about universal design. And that's, I think, a misunderstanding. People think, oh, we need to get the architects. We need to get the architects. They're not the ones that are designing single-family housing. It really is, people go to Connects in Rapid City and they talk to a drafter and then that drafter draws it out. So it's almost like we need to get to the drafters and help them understand the things that need to be considered. But at the end of the day, I need an army of people that are measuring. You go into an apartment or a house to see if you want to buy it, you're measuring. So that real estate agent sees people measuring, because I really think that's what it's going to take. It's going to take every person who is looking to buy a house walking in with a measuring tape. And when the doors don't work, their lights piece, or the bathroom doesn't work, not for me. We're going to have to work hard as regular, everyday people to get change to happen. That's the reality.
We have one final question over here.
I'm sorry, I lost you.
This question, I don't know if you can answer it, but maybe you can steer me in the right direction of who to contact. But when you go into a public restroom, I've noticed at rest stops, we just traveled up from Texas, and even here, going in the restroom, the handicap bathrooms are way at the end. So if somebody has trouble walking, or like I use a walker.
I know they do that for space reasons.
But they're way at the end.
They are way at the end, you're right. I don't know who to talk to about that, because typically they do put them at the end. I'm like visualizing where they are. And it's for space, because there's more space. They can put it at the end, they can have the space, and then they can put the smaller ones at the front. There's no good answer. The challenge with the ADA is it doesn't really account for like practical reality. I've been in ADA compliant bathrooms where the toilet paper was on the other side of the bathroom. It was ADA compliant, but the toilet paper was in a weird spot. I don't have a good answer for you. I'm sorry.